Devin, and welcome to another album review. In this video I'm going to be talking about this new American football album, American Football, LP3. Yeah. This is the third studio album from the seminal Illinois emo outfit American Football, their second since their 2016 comeback album. This band debuted back in 1999 with an excellent self-titled album that combined the heart and emotion of a blossoming emo scene with very beautiful, blissful, math-rocky guitar work. This single album went on to inspire an entire generation of math rock-leaning emo bands. Today it stands as easily one of the most influential and best albums in the emo genre. It still holds up very well today. Even 2 decades later, the production is still incredibly warm, serene, and crisp, and the emotions are still, palpable. Soon after the release of this album, the band members made the mutual decision to stop recording together, and for nearly 17 years, this was the band's only official studio release. In those 17 years, the Only American Football album developed a substantial cult following and became a genuine emo classic. So, needless to say, when the band announced that their long-awaited sophomore LP would be arriving in October 2016, the hype was through the roof. All of the fans that first album had gathered were dying to hear some new material from these guys. But once LP2 came out, it was met with widespread disappointment from fans and critics alike. The emotional but nimble math rock that fans had fallen in love with on the first album had been replaced with lifeless, drab soft rock. Granted, the band was 17 years older at this point, so it wasn't unreasonable to expect a pretty large change in sound, but between the absent songwriting, the pretty but monotonous and repetitive guitar parts, and Mike Kinsella's very meandering, kind of boring vocal delivery, LP2 was a overwhelmingly average comeback album. And now we have the band's third self-titled album here, and I'm quite happy to say that LP3 is a massive improvement over LP2, and it's kind of what I had wished the band's initial comeback had been. While sonically this album is much more akin to LP2 than LP1, the band just comes into this album with much stronger songwriting, better melodies, and some genuine ambition this time around. The album starts off fantastically with the track Silhouettes, which was the lead single for this album. The song starts off with some marimba arpeggios and a second melodic marimba line on top of that with some ambient effects in the background, and these simple elements create a very beautiful atmosphere that the band kind of expands upon once they crash in with full force with layered guitars and crisp drums and warm bass and some nice vocal harmonies. From there, the song progresses further down these very beautiful and wonderful musical passages. There's one bit where there's this arpeggiated chord that reminds me a bit of Daydreaming by Radiohead. And even though this song is 7 minutes, which is considerably longer than any song off of LP2 was, it just is so much more cohesive and has so much more direction than any track on that album. Some other highlights include the track Uncomfortably Numb, which features some fantastic vocal chemistry between Mike and Hayley Williams of Paramore fame. The songwriting on this track is superb. Mike and Hayley's vocals blend together very nicely, and I also love the lyrics on this track a ton, not just the nod to the Pink Floyd song, but just the very reflective tone of the lyrics overall as Mike is realizing how much older he has become and how his mindset has shifted. It's really beautiful, potent stuff. Overall, it's one of my favorite singles of the year so far. Then there's the song Heir, which has some of my favorite guitar work on the whole album, and this heavenly choir-led outro that closes off the song in a very satisfying way. We also have the song Doom in Full Bloom, which, despite being the longest song here, is another very beautiful moment, as is the track Every Wave to Ever Rise. Seriously, the main guitar theme on this song is incredible. Every time I hear this one big reverb-drenched chord, it's like this big wave of sad emo bliss washing over me. There aren't any songs on here that stand out to me as being particularly bad, maybe just some moments that are kind of boring, particularly the track Mind to Miss, but even that song is still easy on the ears. It's still nice to listen to. I guess my biggest issue with LP3 is that there isn't a ton of variety overall. That's something the band has always kind of struggled with. But I do think that the band are kind of aware of that on this album, as they do bring in tons of extra instrumentation and some guest vocalists, and I do appreciate that they kind of tried to combat the potential boredom of this album. And the additional instrumentation isn't limited just to the marimbas that appear on Silhouettes. There's some very prominent horn sections throughout this album, as well as some beautiful kind of flute melodies on Heir Apparent that I love a lot. And with the guest singers, while Mike does have a very nice voice, I do think his inflection can maybe get a little bit one note at times, and the inclusion of these guest singers can kind of prevent things from becoming too repetitive, which is nice. So overall, I kind of loved this new American Football album. While the band does remain very deeply rooted in the soft rock stylings they explored on LP2, LP3 feels like a much more fully fleshed out version of these sounds. LP3 feels like the more matured version of American Football that I wanted to hear on LP2. So yeah, overall, really great album, really beautiful album, to the point where I'm feeling a very light 8 out of 10, but still an 8 out of 10 nonetheless. And so yeah, that's all my thoughts on this new American Football album. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye!